All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of someone, uh, well, he's multi-talented, to say the least.
Definitely multi-talented.
Carlos Ezequiel Centurion from Argentina. You sent us his LinkedIn profile.
Yeah,
And wow, this is someone who wears a lot of creative hats.
it's true. Just even glancing at his skills, you see everything from app development to graphic design to even sound design. It's clear Carlos isn't limiting himself to just one slice of the creative pie.
Yeah, it really is remarkable, and I'm curious what this kind of multifaceted skill set tells us about how someone like Carlos might approach his work or the types of projects he takes on. Is this common for creatives in these tech-adjacent fields these days?
Yeah, you've hit on a major trend here. We're seeing more and more individuals, especially in those tech-adjacent creative spaces, who possess a blend of skills just like Carlos does. It's no longer enough to be a one-trick pony.
So it's almost like he's got all the tools in his toolbox to build something really incredible from the ground up.
Exactly. And not only build it, but also craft how it looks, feels, and even sounds. This suggests he might be drawn to projects where he can own that entire creative process, shaping the user experience from start to finish.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's like he's not just building an app, he's building a whole world. Now, another thing that caught my eye was his services offered section. He's open to direct messages and business inquiries from anyone on LinkedIn, even if they aren't connected to him. Is that something you see often? Because I have to admit, it struck me as both refreshing and a little daring.
It's definitely not the norm. That kind of openness on LinkedIn is unusual, as it could mean navigating a deluge of messages.
Right. There must be a method to the madness. Right.
So what are the potential advantages and disadvantages of this approach when you are trying to build your network and connect with new clients?
Well, let's start with the upside. By making himself so accessible, Carlos casts a wider net for opportunities. He might connect with someone from a completely different field who has a project that perfectly blends his many skills. It's all about maximizing those serendipitous encounters.
That's a really good point. It's like that saying, opportunity favors the prepared, and it seems like Carlos is ready for anything that comes his way. Absolutely. And it also positions him as approachable and collaborative, which can be incredibly valuable. Imagine being a potential client and seeing that. You'd immediately think, okay, this is someone who's open to new ideas and connections.
So it's almost like he's breaking down those barriers and saying, hey, if you've got a cool project, let's chat. It's refreshing to see that kind of openness. But you mentioned a deluge of messages before. There's got to be a downside to this level of accessibility.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah.
While that openness can lead to incredible opportunities, it can also mean sifting through a mountain of inquiries, not all of them a good fit for his skills or interests. There's a real risk of spreading yourself too thin.
Right. It's that classic creator's dilemma, balancing openness to new possibilities with the need to focus on the projects that truly resonate. It takes a certain kind of energy to walk that tightrope. But speaking of energy, Carlos doesn't just list skills and wait for the messages to roll in. He actively engages in conversations, shares his expertise, and offers advice, which really comes through in the contribution section of his profile.
Absolutely. He doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk.
Yeah.
And his willingness to share his knowledge so freely speaks volumes about his character.
Yeah. For example, he gave some really insightful advice to aspiring artists about dealing with criticism. He said, and I quote, "Don't get down when you get negative comments. This happens 100% of the time. People that criticize what you do, it's not better than you." Now, I don't know about you, but that really resonated with me.
Yeah. It's a powerful message, especially in the age of online critiques, where it's easy to get bogged down by negativity. And his advice isn't just about ignoring the noise, it's about recognizing that criticism often says more about the critic than the creator. It's a subtle but important distinction.
It's about building that resilience and trusting your own vision. And that ties into another comment he made about learning to program. He said, "Learn to draw by drawing is better than learning to draw by reading." He seems to embrace a very hands-on experimental approach, which speaks to larger trends in how people are learning and developing their skills these days.
Absolutely. It's that shift from passive learning to active creation. It's no longer enough to simply consume information. You have to roll up your sleeves and experiment, iterate, and learn from your mistakes. Carlos clearly embodies that ethos, which is so important in a field that's constantly evolving.
And it's not just about individual skills, it's about connecting those skills to broader trends. For example, Carlos shared a video about integrating AI into game development. He's also expressed interest in depth cameras and Unreal Engine for mobile experiences. It seems like he's not content with just mastering the tools of today. He's got his eye on the future. What do you make of his interest in AI and real-time 3D, especially in the context of mobile?
And a fascinating glimpse into his forward-thinking approach. These technologies are rapidly changing the creative landscape, and his interest suggests he's not just keeping up, but actively seeking ways to push those boundaries. AI in particular has the potential to revolutionize how we interact with technology and each other.
Yeah. For someone like Carlos, who's clearly passionate about crafting immersive experiences, it's almost like having a whole new set of colors to paint with. But what does that actually look like in practice? What kind of projects might we see from someone with his skills and these interests?
Well, imagine mobile games that adapt to your playstyle in real time, or interactive narratives that respond to your emotions. We could see him create augmented reality experiences that seamlessly blend the real and the digital, or even develop tools that make these cutting-edge technologies more accessible to other creators.
It's like he's a digital alchemist, blending these seemingly disparate elements, sound design, AI, 3D modeling, into something entirely new. It makes you wonder, what kind of competitive edge does this give someone in today's rapidly changing job market?
You've hit the nail on the head. In a world where specialization is becoming less important than adaptability,
Right.
Carlos's multifaceted approach is a huge asset. It allows him to pivot, experiment, and jump into projects that might intimidate someone with a narrower skill set.
He's not afraid to try something new.
Exactly. He's not just riding the wave of change, he's surfing it.
It's almost like he's building his own creative ecosystem where he's not just competing for projects, but creating entirely new possibilities.
Exactly. And that's incredibly inspiring, especially for those of us who might be feeling a little overwhelmed by the pace of technological change. Carlos's story reminds us that it's not about becoming an expert in every new gadget or software. It's about cultivating a mindset of curiosity, experimentation, and a willingness to embrace the unknown.
And maybe even a willingness to hit that connect button on LinkedIn, even if you haven't officially met in the metaverse yet. Who knows what amazing collaborations might come from simply being open to new connections and possibilities.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of it all. This deep dive into Carlos's world has been really eye-opening, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a great reminder that we're all creating our own unique narratives in this digital landscape. And by embracing our passions, honing our skills, and connecting with others, we can achieve some pretty remarkable things. Until next time, keep exploring, keep creating, and keep those LinkedIn profiles coming. You never know who we might uncover next.